Hi, I'm Luke from NZ Chaos, and as you can see, I've decided to record my video without a helmet on. And this is largely due to the fact that I've tried recording my video a few times and had to cut it about halfway because around the 5 minute mark, my helmet will slowly start fogging up, and around 8 minutes, I could barely see anything anymore. And so a little bit of a history about why I decided to have a Stormtrooper helmet is because in 2015, um, I had decided to custom build my own Stormtrooper suit for the premiere of Force Awakens. And if, in case you're wondering, it wasn't canon because I had to trim my thigh pieces a little bit shorter than normal just so I can sit comfortably in the theater. Uh, and ever since then, I had this suit that I've worn a few times, but it was just like sitting there doing nothing. So I decided to make the most of it while starting this channel up. So a little bit about me. I started board gaming or rediscovering board gaming about a year and a bit ago, and the FOMO of Kickstarter. Uh, so during COVID, which wasn't particularly a great year in 2020, I had created a spreadsheet of all the Kickstarters I backed, which turned out to be a mistake. And I was a little bit intimidated by the amount of board games I had backed in the last year and a bit. So currently I have 34 projects on the way, the latest being ISS Vanguard. So for the longest time, I was thinking about doing unboxing videos as they slowly came in, but I was never really committed enough. And one of the channels I was following, which was Quackalope, and Jesse from Quackalope had released a video encouraging us to essentially just start. And I guess here I am. So let's make a start. So today I'll be looking at 5 crowdfunding projects that have caught my eye and that was being released this week. So the first one being the release of a game called Fallen Land. It was originally released in 2017, but this now is a big box version of that game, which is Fallen Lands, and it's the second edition of it with the expansion Descendants. So what is this game really about? It's a open world sandbox game, and you are essentially the town leader of a faction of survivors in a post-apocalyptic world. Uh, and I was pretty intrigued by this particular game because I was looking at Frostpunk earlier or late last year, and my problem with Frostpunk was it was primarily a solo game. As much as they tried to say that it could be 1 to 4 players, when I really looked at it and watched the gameplay, it was really a one-player game for me. But I did like the theme and I liked the decision making of what you would do as a leader of essentially a post-apocalyptic era town, and the decisions that you have to make, making your town to be the best surviving town as possible. And so this particular game caught my eye, and I'll probably have to follow this through because I'm not 100% sure whether I'll back this yet, and here are my concerns why. So I guess the first one I had was I'm a sucker for deluxe components, and this particular game, it the components look really lackluster. Like there's not much to it. It looks pretty bland to me, which was a little bit concerning. And the other thing is if you see this, oh, let me find a better picture. Um, this particular card here wasn't great for me because if you look at it, there is so much text on this particular card that is really hard to see, and it didn't bode well for what this good game could be. So what really sold me a little bit about this game was the fact that it was highly thematic from all the reviews I saw, and on BGG the users had give a generic rating of 8.3. Take that how you would. Um, I just take that as a basic indicator to see whether I'll be interested or not. But at the end of the day, I'll probably investigate that quite a lot more to see whether I'll back this. So one of the things of interest is this game is not just a second edition board game. It oh, uh, it comes with the previous two expansion, and as you can see, there's a new expansion. The new expansion just adds 12 new factions plus some new cards to it. Now, let me see. So, what's the difference between the second and the first edition is essentially the map. The first edition was just US only. The second edition now includes Canada and Mexico. It's got nicer plastic trays and components, new rules, and yeah. So now if we take a look at the shipping, so oh, actually, let's step back a bit. Let's actually start with the pledge levels. The pledge levels that I will be interested in will be either the Fallen Land core set, which is just a big box edition, and that's for 89 US, or the core sets and expansion for 118. Then there's potentially the all-in pledge, which is 175 US, and that comes with two extra dice and two extra sets of skill dice and the neoprene playmat. Uh, I would say on the $89 mark is not as good a value for this particular project, because the shipping itself it is gonna be 45 US dollars, and at $89 that is just under half, or just over half actually. So just being at just over half makes me question about the true value of this game. However, I do have to note that this game will be very hard to get in New Zealand, and even if I was to try and source it elsewhere, chances are it will have to be outside of New Zealand, and having it shipped in, I would probably still have to pay something similar anyway. So at the end of the day, I'll probably have to take a look at it and wonder whether it's a game for me. And if I do decide it's a game for me, I'll probably make the most of that shipping, and get the core set and expansion, because that would then be the best value for myself being in New Zealand. Right, so the next game I'd like to take a look at is Pingyao. Pingyao was interesting to me because it was essentially a dice worker placement game, and what looked to be different to me is, let me see if I can find a picture of the board. So I'm not sure if you can see this properly, but it's one of those games where you roll your set of dice, and the higher value your dice is shows your, like, who goes first. So if you roll 6, chances are you will go first. If you roll 1, you'll be going last. The interesting thing about this game is if you roll 6, you might go first, but the places that you can go will be worse than a lower value. So the lower value your dice is, the more beneficial the rewards are. So that made it a little bit interesting. The other thing that was quite interesting was this game has actually already been made, and it's already been essentially played in China, and really what they're doing is revising, or I guess translating the rules into English so that people like myself can play it. So what this really means to me is this game has already been created, been tested, been played, and it's received an okay review, but I guess we'll have to really see how well this game truly plays, because I don't really see a lot of gameplay video for this, and what was it? And the thing about the pledges was they really only had, was it the pledge of $55 for the core and $90 for the expansion, and the core, and otherwise your deluxeified game will be the $120, which is 120 US dollars, which is for the Chinese festival gift bag, with the embroidery bag, the box, and a set of upgrade copper cash marks. It looked a little bit interesting. We'll see how this goes, but the problem I have with this particular game, just like the previous one, is the shipping. The shipping to New Zealand is, looking at here, is 32 US dollars or 39 US dollars for the expansion. Now, what that means is this is already over halfway just for the basic game, and it'll be about 40% or just over 40% of the value of the core game for the core game and the expansion, which for me isn't really worth the value for money. However, just like what was it, Fallen Lands, is my the chances of me able to get this game on a second-hand market at a cheaper price is not that high, because chances are there'll be a very small number of people in New Zealand who actually have this game, and I will have to get it from overseas anyway, which means I will probably still have to pay some ridiculous shipping costs just to get it here. So the next one is the Epic 7 Arise board game. If you don't already know, this is based on a mobile platform, which I haven't really played. This looked interesting to me because this was a game where essentially you use I guess a soul token, which either boosts up your skills or you call a teammate to help you out. And that appealed to me a little bit. It's also in the anime style, and I do follow anime quite a bit. This game is a cooperative adventure-based game. So I have a few games like this, and I'm not sure if this is differentiated enough for me to back this on top of all my other games that I have coming. Because I have like Oathsworn and Storm Thunder on the way. I've also got Massive Darkness, so I'm not 100% sure if I will truly back this game yet. It's probably something I'll still have to look into. The thing to note is it did meet that 48-hour mark, which meant that all the core pledges will get this extra bonus for free. So I am a little bit of a sucker for FOMO, so who knows? We'll see whether I'll back this game or not. The interesting thing about this game I'd like to note is it calls itself a core pledge and a deluxe pledge, but if you actually check the components each pledge contains, the only difference is the expansion, which I thought was interesting. So this is not actually a deluxe pledge in my view, because the deluxe pledge meant that it had better components than the core pledge, but as you can see, both the core pledge and the deluxe pledge had the premium quality game components, which meant that there was nothing really deluxe about this particular pledge level other than the fact that it had the expansion. And then if I go take a look at the shipping side to New Zealand is 35 US dollars, and it being a what was it, a 95, sorry, let me go back up, being a 95 US dollars, it's about a third, so that does meet my benchmark of a decent value. It's not great, but it's still okay. And now I'll be remiss to not mention the Dice Tower Kickstarter. If you don't already know, Dice Tower is a pretty big YouTube, I guess, channel, and they actually do quite a bit for the board game community, and they're essentially raising funds for their channel for the year, and I believe they do this annually. Essentially, just like Girl Guys, who instead of selling cookies, you get promo cards and some merchandise. So for, if you haven't already seen, each of the packs that they have. Oh, first one I would like to mention is they do Gloomhaven, another new scenario, because you can never have more than more scenarios in Gloomhaven. So it's always good to have more scenarios. Then there's the Rising Sun promo, So this was something they released back in 2019. I'll probably add a link in part of my description so you guys can quickly find what they look like. I've taken a look at it. I'm not 100% sure whether I'll get this or not. The one that I was interested in getting was they do these packs of promo cards, which I don't really quite like because I can't really pick and choose the promos that I do like and the ones that I don't really want to get. So if you are interested in any of the promos, you either have to choose to buy them all or buy none of it. So I've taken the numbers. The A pack has 14 different promos in it. B has 11. C pack has 15. D has 10. And E has 12 different promos. So the one that I'm personally interested in is B. Oh, and I forgot to mention that each pack is 50 US dollars. So if unless you're some kind of collector, it's up to you to decide whether this is actually worth the value of money for you. But for the most part, like I was saying before, you might only be interested in one or two, which means you're now left with like eight or nine or like just to try and get rid of because you're not interested in them. So like I was saying, I'm interested in the B pack because I have Nemesis Lockdown on the way. But I don't have Now or Never. I don't have this one. I do have Lizard Wizard. So of this two, I have Nemesis Lockdown and Lizard Wizard on the way. So this is interesting for me. The other one was the E pack. So in the E pack, they had Everdell, and they also had Dinosaur World, which I have on the way as well. And I also have a friend that has Captain Sona, so potentially I should give that to him. But like I was saying, then I'm stuck with having these other ones that I have to try and figure out what to do with, because I just don't play those games. So chances are I either have to try and sell it or they'll just sit there. Maybe I'll just give it away. Who knows? And so the last one probably talk about will be the CMON animation collection. So in this animation collection, there is essentially two types of game. The first one is the Scooby-Doo board game, which is a cooperative game where you try to solve mysteries. And then the other one is Teen Titans Go and Looney Tunes, which is based on essentially a PvP type was it combat, uh, essentially two versus two. And the good thing about these two is they can actually be combined to make a single game. So let's, if I was to talk a little bit about, was it Scooby-Doo? Scooby-Doo, you start with your 5 original characters, and there will be 3 monsters in the core box. They then have 8 daily daily reviews, and of those, that means, like from what I saw, that will bring an extra 8 monsters in, which will give you 11. And then if we take a look at the Teen Titans one, so both the Teen Titans one and the Looney Tunes will have 8 extra characters that you can add to your repertoire, which will add I guess variety and replayability for both games. Right. So what am I concerned about this game? I'm concerned a little bit that it could be a little bit light, um, but from but saying that, I did think the same for Marvel United, and turns out that even though the game was quite light and quite simple to play, there was actually quite a lot of depth to it, which I didn't really pick up. But from people's reviews after they got it, I feel like I've actually got some FOMO, and probably should have got Marvel United. I'm not sure, 100% sure whether I'll get any of these three, um, because the problem with these particular IPs is, for myself, is actually based on nostalgia, and these kind of games, I'm not 100% sure if I would get this for my current game group, or if this is a game that or these are the games that I'll try and get to play with my nephew and nieces to try and bring them into board games. So at the beginning, I was really interested in all three of them to introduce to my niece and nephew. However, after taking a closer look at it, in New Zealand, I don't actually see Scooby Doo being shown on TV anymore. So it makes me wonder, would they even know who Scooby Doo is? And if they do, was it? If they do like certain things, would they recognize it? And like these monsters, we've got a clown, a creeper, and a ghost. Like if you take a look at them, it's other than the ghost, are they truly monsters that they'll go, oh yeah, these are monsters I recognize? It's not like I guess I'll have to take a look at the stretch goals later to see whether it will intrigue me a little bit more. I believe there was a Dark Knight that was also released as one of the daily reviews, but if there was like, let's say, a Dracula, a mummy, like all the more common monsters that I could try and slowly introduce to my niece and nephews, that might appeal to me a little bit more, because at least they'll recognize the monsters even though they may not recognize the Scooby-Doo gang. um, and then we've got Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes is something that I'll see every now and then at the cinema as a short clip. I haven't really seen this on TV either. So that also makes me wonder, like, I do like the characters, like they bring back some fond childhood memories, but again, my nephew and nieces may not recognize who they are. They I think the skills that they have reference to the animation of Looney Tunes, but my nephew and nieces, they're not going to know what that is or what that means. They might laugh at it a little bit, but they won't have that same nostalgia feeling as I would have. So between the three of them, the only one that they chances are that they would see is Teen Titans, and that will be because of Netflix, because Teen Titans Go is actually currently still on Netflix. Um, and at the moment, I think they're still a little bit on the younger side to watch Teen Titans, but I can see that in the future, or in the short future, they may start being aware of who Teen Titans are, and they can relate to these characters. So that means for me, Teen Titan is a better IP for my nephew and nieces, which I believe this game is catered towards than I guess a more hardcore gamer like myself, um, than than these other two, which is Looney Tunes and Scooby Doo. Now, in terms of value, though, however, it's got it's it's got a very decent value. The game, the shipping, however, I'll get to shipping later. Um, but the problem with this game is chances are, if you were to find it on retail, it will be half the price, because that's what happened with Marvel United. But obviously, in Marvel United, the retail doesn't include the stretch goal. So I guess it comes down to your own judgment of whether the eight extra characters for each game is worth backing it now or just waiting it for retail. Personally, if I want the game, I will probably back this now, because I want, was it, variety and replayability more than just a cheaper price. Um, what was it? And if I go back to the stretch goals, where are you? Now, in the stretch goals, one thing you'll notice is some of them say Kickstarter exclusive. Beast Boy, as you can see, isn't a Kickstarter exclusive one. I believe they'll either try and sell this, or what's more likely is this will be, say, like a Walmart exclusive, like what they did with Marvel United. So I'm guessing this is more towards exclusive to certain stores like Walmart or Target, which is why it doesn't have that Kickstarter exclusive on here, but the others do. Um, yeah. So if we go back to, sorry, I seem to be all over the place, but if you go back to the pledges, it's 50 US dollars for one of the Mayhem choice of games. Scooby-Doo, interestingly enough, is $80 US, but I guess if you take a look at the miniature involved, Teen Titans have and Looney Tunes have both have 4 miniatures each, which I guess if you look at it, that be I guess what was it, 12.50 a miniature, where Scooby Doo actually has 8 miniatures. So you got your Scooby Gang, there's 5 of them, and 3 monsters. So if you look at it that way, then this is essentially $10 US per miniature. Otherwise, you can combine, well, you can order both the Mayhem games. If I was to get Mayhem, chances are I'll get both of them, just because they can interplay with each other, and again, more variety and replayability. Uh, and by doing so, you would save $10, because otherwise they'll be $50 a piece. Otherwise, you could also get the Scooby and one of the Mayhem. I'm not 100% sure why you get one of the Mayhem. Maybe you only prefer one of the IP over the other. And that's for $120 US. But if I was to get one, I would probably just get both Mayhem, and which means I'll do the all-in collection, and it's 100 USD, and that would allow me to save 20 USD. So up to you which one you guys would like to do. This is something that I'll probably follow quite closely. If anything, I'll probably do the minimum pledge for $1, and then just make a decision later. So based on the shipping, you can see the shipping to New Zealand is actually $25 for a single game. Now that is half the price of the core game of, I guess, a single game. If you're looking at the Mayhem, which doesn't make it worthwhile because that's half the cost, and chances are, because this is a CMON game, this will hit New Zealand in retail. You just won't get the stretch goals, but chances are it will be cheaper than what you're currently doing the basic pledge for each of the individual games. But if I was to get it, chances are I'll get all three, because it'll be, was it $48 US, and for it being all three, for me that's more than worth its value for money. But otherwise, you can see that this was it. One of the things I really like about CMON is it has a New Zealand friendly shipping, and so I'm always a big fan of CMON games, even though they historically and currently have controversies going around them. But the most recent one is more around the VAT, but the VAT doesn't really impact myself, and I don't actually think that they were malicious in the issue with the VAT. I think it was just something they probably overlooked, but one of the things that they did do, and I think they did the right thing, which was they offered a full refund. So if you don't really know, Kickstarter will take a fee of, I believe it's 10% of the Kickstarter pledge, and so they would start taking the price away. Oh, I apologize. I think my was it robot vacuum had just kicked off and started vacuuming my floor. So I guess now is a good time to end it. Thank you for watching, and hope you have a good one. Thank you.